Hi everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. My name is Pankaj Dhingra and as you all know me by now, I am a proud Fintrammer. Welcome friends, welcome to the another session on the ACCA Strategic Business Leader Exam March 2025 pre-scene material. In the today's session, we are really going to be covering some very important things that I have observed in the pre-scene material that you should certainly have at the back of your mind. Come what may, something or the other might come from that particular area, because I've seen these specific things being picked up in the exam in some shape or format. That is the reason, my friend, I do want to be spending out some time today in terms of taking you through all of those highlighted areas, and I've highlighted that in red over here. I just want to be talking about these areas that you should be thinking about this when you are preparing for your exam. Have this in your mind that this can be an area where examiner can test you in some shape or format. I have given a detailed analysis video of this pre-scene material in my earlier video. You can have a look on that too in case you want to analyze this pre-scene material on the whole. But in this video, we'll touch upon some specific aspects which I feel can be the one on which you have to think through in case you get to see something like that in the exam. Is that something you really want to know? Yes, sir. Should we jump in? Yes, sir. All right. If you really, of course, and this is the PPT that I've already shared with you. They have, of course, gone through the introduction. They have gone through the charity's legal position. But in this case, one thing that really glaringly come across to my mind is that he has specifically said that in Rhodesia, the country that is there in picture, what he's saying specifically with regards to this is that companies are limited by the guarantee. Very important aspects. We are not very much familiar with this as a concept, but he specifically says that there are no shareholders, there is no corporate governance per se that is generally applicable to a corporate, but of course there is a specific regulatory body that deals with these charitable organizations. But he specifically says from the structuring standpoint, this is a company limited by guarantee, in which guarantor will come into picture only and only in case of insolvency, and we'll see that in a while. Important point to know. I just wanted to highlight that. Then commercial activities are conducted via subsidiary companies in these charities. They are conducted via subsidiary companies which are wholly owned by charity. Again, why they are thinking about something like this? Why they have a subsidiary to really, have a business like this? Would they be contemplating change in a model? Would they be contemplating something in relation to this in terms of, how this is to be managed? Who knows? But important point to note over there. All right, moving on. From the regulation perspective, there was one thing that was being specifically written over there, which said larger charities which have an annual income of more than $10 million. And I can tell you the case that we have, which is Historical Places HP, is falling in this. The larger charities, annual income of more than $10 million, must report on internal control and risk management and with the external auditor reviews. You have to check this. He specifically says that if you're $10 million and above, you have to have this. You have to be very cautious when you get into the exam. If there is something in relation to the overall regulatory aspect of HP really gets into the picture, you should know that this is the aspect that you have to mention out there. This is the aspect that you have to check out there. Do not forget that. All right, moving on. Other important aspect that I see again from the overall regulatory or overall country perspective, they say that major heritage charities in Rhodesia, the country in picture, is you have two companies over there. We have Historical Places, which is our case, which is company that is being given to us. That will be there in the question in the exam. We have Historical Places, and then we have LTP, which is Living the Past. LTP manages the sites which are less than 300-year old, okay? And of course, Historic Places, manages the site which are more than 300-year old. Now, important aspect over here is that who knows that for the purpose of growth, Historic Places might look upon entering into the business, entering into the area wherein they're managing less than 300-year-old buildings too, and of course competing with LTP. As of now, there is no competition, but who knows if this gets into the play, or who knows if LTP wants to do something as historic places, then what would happen? This is something which I think can really be the one wherein he may test your skills in terms of how do you handle these kind of areas. All right, moving on. Then we have another aspect that I've taken up from the stakeholders' perspective, wherein he says trustees are unpaid and receive no employment benefit. He has specifically said that. Important point. I've highlighted that. You should have that in your mind. Given the scenario, given the situation, you should not get into the scenario in the exam when something like this is not happening. Something like this is not happening with a trustee. Then you are aware that, you know what, in the charity, in the country that we are in, this is something that is not possible. If HP is doing that, not warranted, not clear, not something that I would take it on the face of it. I would not be accepting it. You have to have that. I have highlighted it. Do not forget that. All right, moving on. Then comes some significant stakeholders. One of the aspects that they really gave us there was volunteers. They specifically said volunteers carry out unpaid work at the charity site in their spare time. Important piece. Volunteers are really gonna be important, guys, and we'll see that in a while when we'll move on to the HP slides. Important pieces. He's talking about volunteers here. They have no contractual obligation to keep volunteering. It is a risk for us from the business, from the company standpoint. It is a risk for us. We have to have at the back of our mind. All right, moving on. From the significant stakeholders perspective, again, if I really talk on guarantors pledge a certain amount to cover a charity debt if it becomes insolvent. They are generally not involved in the charity activities. Important piece, guys. Have that very clear in your mind that guarantors are not doing any business. They're not managing anything. They will only get into the play when there is an insolvency. If they would get into the play when there is an insolvency, they probably have to have a strong control in terms of testing this out, that everything is going right. And company should not move on to the direction of getting insolvent. They have to have their test checks and balances in place. Important piece. Do not forget that. Then there was another term that was being written, which was there for the media. They specifically said media can also be a source of bad publicity. Who doesn't know this? It is certainly possible. They can be a source of bad publicity. For example, stories about charities wasting money, which effectively wants to sow a seed in your mind, guys, that this is something you should always look upon. That your charity, HP, should not be doing anything in which they can go into the bad terms with the media. Important piece, do not forget that. All right. Moving on, we have charities income. Some of the aspects that I've highlighted out here in the red, please do not forget that. He has mentioned that charities are into off-site and online sales. Some charities run shops in the shopping areas, selling them the same items into the side shops. Many charities sell products online. I haven't seen online concept being taken up and spoken up I would say, in a detailed way in the HP. Important aspect, guys. If HP wants to do something different, something more, online can be one of the aspects which examiner can test you on. So you really need to be prepared that if they have to go online, what all things they really have to have in your mind, what all things they really have to do. Is this a niche area that they really want to get into? Who knows if he gives you a proposal in this regard? You never know that. But important pieces, subtly he has mentioned that they're doing offline and online business. We have to think about, do we have an online presence? Do we want to build an online presence? Do you want to expand the online presence of the HP? And so on and so forth. Important thing, have that very clear in your mind. All right, moving on. From the expenditure standpoint, he has specifically said that for the charity, for the heritage charities, what is really happening out here is that there is a big time site operating cost. They're managing these sites which are so many years old. Imagine the kind of money that they would need to spend on in terms of, really keeping them workable, really keeping them the way they should. There is an important, aspect of site operating cost. Important piece to know. Site maintenance and conservation cost. Important piece to know. But if I will move on to the other side of the table, wherein I'll start managing the buildings which are less than 300-year-old, maybe my cost will be less over there because they are not that old. So my cost would be less over there. I just wanted to sow that seed into your mind. Important piece, have that with you in the exam. All right, moving on. Some of the challenges that were being mentioned, I've highlighted, which you should certainly know. They have spoken about the deterioration that is happening to the building, which is happening due to the passage of time, which is happening due to the natural conditions, which is happening due to the pollution and the violet matter, weather, which is happening due to wear and tear. Important piece, guys. There is an impact of responsible leadership out here. Important piece that we are not only concerned with of course running our company HP, but we have a motto to ensure that all of these deterioration are not happening. So we probably have to be very sure in terms of whatever decision we take that should ensure that our properties are surely taken care of. Then there is an economic recession in Odisha. Now this is something that is being specifically said. I have highlighted in red over here. Important piece is you should know that there is a recession happening, boss, and we are into the business in which whenever the recession would happen, I would be in trouble. Because who wants to do charity, boss, when you don't have money to eat, when you don't have money to really sustain? Who wants to do the charity? What should you be doing in this kind of a scenario? Should you be really getting on to the schools in terms of teaching the students, in terms of thinking through that how important this is? If you may want to be thinking about the rejuvenating the importance of history into the life of people. You may want to be thinking about the tax relief that people would get in case they want to contribute. If there's a change in policy, something like that happens, who knows? But you may get to see a scenario wherein you are into the business, wherein it is completely recession impacted. Recession is happening, people will not contribute, you would be in the state of flux. What you should be doing right now at this point in time. Think about this. Start thinking about the reasons. Start thinking about what would happen and so on and so forth. Broaden your mind, my friend. Very important. These pointers at times, I can tell you, be thrown up in different exhibits in the exam in some way or the other. You should somewhere have something in your mind in any way possible. Do not forget that. Then they've given some key performance indicators. I do want you to have that completely in your mind. Very important. These are the performance indicators that you should not forget when it comes to the assessment of the organization. Then, if I really come on to the historic places, now we've done the industry aspect, the country aspect. If I really move on to the historic places, some of the items that I've highlighted over here that I want you to really know is that they manages 350 sites across the country. It's going to be difficult, right? Managing 350 sites across the country is certainly not going to be easy. Having people across, having administration across, having control across, it's not going to be easy. Important point, have that in your mind. They are only into castles and museums, so they are very restrictive in terms of their outreach that they have. Should they be exploring out some other I would say places like the religious ones, the one which have religious connections? Should they be doing something like that? Who knows? But important piece, have that in your mind. This is the company limited by guarantee. We've already spoken on that. Important piece, do not forget that. Administration staff is based out at the head office in Odisha's capital. So effectively, he has not spoken about our staff being located across the country. So most of our administration staff is based out in the Odisha's capital. Would that be a concern from the growth perspective? Would that be a concern from the management perspective? Who knows that? Have that in your mind. Moving on, there are other things that I really wanted to highlight, which was acquisition of sites. He specifically mentioned that from the HP standpoint, HP acquires the building and other sites as a gift from previous owners, which is good. They're gifting, but they have to keep gifting. So they have to keep having a belief into the HP so that they can keep gifting these kind of assets. Important. Or by purchasing them using HP's surplus fund. Do we have surplus fund? If we not, what are we doing for it? If we will not have surplus fund, we will not be able to add buildings. Then no revenues. What would happen? Important pieces, you have to have the appropriate amount of liquidity being available to buy an asset or not. Who knows if he gives you a proposal of buying a particular monument, buying a particular place, and you don't have money, or you want money. Should you take money on loan? Should you not take, should you take more donations? Who knows if something like this really comes your way. Then HP will only acquire sites which are of national importance, that is our constitution, and are under the threat of destruction or deterioration over time. So effectively, we are buying the assets which are exposed to deterioration. So we are effectively, trying to restore them as much as possible. So we should be ready with the cost that will get burnt to start with. We should be ready with that, which means that you have to have appropriate amount of liquidity. Do you have it? Have that in your mind. Very important. Then, coming on, HP's best known sites include, he has specifically mentioned few of the sites, which is Mallock, Dogene, Birmingham, Stowater, Trueworth. He has mentioned this, but he has not spoken anything else than this in the pre-scene material. He may give you something in relation to this, as in some of the exhibit, that something is happening in this area, something is not happening in this area, something is this area may have a natural calamity, this area may have some kind of competition, whatever. He may throw something out you in these areas. Beware. Important piece. Have that in your mind. All right. Moving on. From the stakeholders' perspective, he has mentioned that you have around 4,000 people, too big, in terms of size, including the full-time and part-time staff. You have to think about how are you really taking care of them? How are you ensuring that they have a belief in you, an ongoing belief in you? Because if they will not have belief in you, they would not be able to work for you. He has specifically mentioned that you pay average salary of the charitable sector, which is wrong, which is not right, which is effectively putting you on risk. Important piece. Can you do something in this regard? If not, what all are the levers that you have to ensure that you keep paying this, and even then people are joining you. Think about that. You're not paying good amount of salary. Do not forget that. That is a risk area. And then, of course, our salaries any which ways lower in charity or average in charity, but lower than the commercial organizations. He specifically mentioned that. It is certainly a risk onto yourself. Do not forget that. Then, many employees accept lower salaries due to their commitment to the HP's mission, which effectively put a pressure onto your head that you adhering to your mission statement is super important. You have to keep doing that, come what may. Do not forget that. But this is certainly a risk, because if something wrong happens, if some bad news really comes your way, the people would not have a belief on you, and everything can go for a toss. These people can really go for a toss, which is very important. Then, coming upon the volunteers, they have 20,000 volunteers. Imagine 4,000 full-time and part-time worker, 20,000 volunteers, huge volunteers, and they are not contractually bounded. So I'm any which way running by a risk and running under a risk of managing my operations. A big time problem. Do not forget that. That is also to do with the fact that you have to adhere to your mission statement always, so that volunteers keep having faith in you, come what may. Then suppliers and contractors, very important point. He certainly mentioned this. I think this is something that he may want to really test you on. He says choice of suppliers and inventory policy for the catering facility and shops is determined centrally by the HP's procurement function. Do you have relevant control checks and balances? Do you have divisions of responsibility, authority over there? Do you have segregation of duty over there? Do you have that? This has to come your way. What is the need to have a strong procurement function? How the finance will really have a check on that? How the trustees will really have a check on that? Important piece. Have that at the back of your mind. HP uses external contractors for regular site maintenance and major projects. So we are going external for that. Should we internalize it? Should we have our own people? Will that save cost? Who knows? Contractors for large single projects are employed on one-off basis. Is this a problem? Are we having problem in terms of hiring more and more people? Are we having problem in terms of asking the contractor to come again? Are they really willing to come again? Do we have any choice problem? Do we have selection problem? Do you have any kind of lacuna over there? Who knows that? Have that at the back of your mind. Then, these risks, I really want you to have a complete read of these risks, my friend. These risks are really important for you to ensure that you are really capturing what all is needed from the company standpoint, and ensuring that you're having a dual checks and balances over all of these risks. Some of these risks would certainly be tested in the exam in some shape or format. Very important that we do not miss that. Then comes the last thing that I really want you to do not forget is the financial and non-financial information. He specifically is citing out that the growth on the income side is slowing down. However, the operating expenses are increasing, and the speed at which they're increasing is higher than the speed of increasing in revenue. It is not going in the right direction. It is certainly a function of recession, that the way he's mentioned, but how to really deal with that. What all he may give you some kind of options in the exam in terms of what you should be doing, but whatsoever you may want to choose on, you should always have to ensure that your mission statement, your constitution is duly adhered, and you're not running away from the themes that are being discussed, from the risks that are being discussed. You're not running away from that, ensuring that the people, the donors, the members, they're not really losing out on the belief in you, on the faith in you. Very important. Do not forget that number of visits are again slowing down, which is again a function of the revenue. Number of members are again going down, which is again a function of revenue. We are seeing a decline in it, a dip in it on the year-on-year basis. Important piece that we do not forget that. Is that clear? Yes, sir. These are the pointers, my friend, what I felt are really important for you to have that at the back of your mind when you would sit for the strategic business leader exam in the March 2025 attempt. Capitalize on it, make some pointers on it, think about it, have some thoughts being gauged out, gathered in your mind, because these are areas that really are the common ones that examiner may throw you in. Who knows that? I don't want to preempt anything, but some of the thoughts that I really want to be building out is that you should know these areas in depth, prepare for these areas in depth in terms of helping you out, really come up with the flying colors in the exam. If you want to see this PPT, if you want to do the detailed analysis, see the detailed analysis of what we did on the pre-seed material, I have already issued a video. Do watch that out. And of course, this presentation would help you in terms of guiding out which areas to be observed again and again. I hope this video was helpful. If yes, then do like this video to really keep us motivated for really keep coming up with more such videos. With that, I wish you all the best for your upcoming exam. If there is anything I can really help you out with, any further query that you may have, then put it on the comment box. I will be more than happy to pick it up and answer it there and then. I'll see you again in the next one. Till then, this is Pankaj Dhingra signing off.